Hello, and welcome to Grade.com Talks With. Today, we're talking with Judith Turner, Senior Program Officer, and Sophie and Victoria, volunteers at Dorot, an organization addressing the challenges of an aging population by providing older adults with diverse programs and services focusing on intergenerational connections. And if you're new to our podcast, please press subscribe button either on YouTube or your podcast app because today we're going to learn about an organization that is alleviating social isolation and loneliness for older adults. Hello, guys. Welcome to Grade.com Talks. We're excited to have you here.
Thank you. We're glad to be here.
Wonderful. How would you describe Dorot for someone who is not familiar with your work?
Well, I would say we are very, very concerned and we focus on alleviating isolation among elderly people. People who over time maybe have lost family members, whose friends have passed on, and they don't have a way to make new friends. And so we visit, we do birthday visits. Some of our recipients of our work want to go to visit the grave of a beloved person, so we do cemetery visits. There are many, many different ways. I am a friendly visitor, and I have been seeing the same person now for nearly 4 years.
Mm-hmm. Wonderful. So you provide a helping hand for elderly people who are lacking human interactions, who are lacking human connections. Could you please describe how loneliness and isolation actually affects older adults and how widespread is this issue among elderly Americans?
Thank you, Kareem. So our mission is to relieve social isolation. And recently there was a study done where it equated social isolation with 17 cigarettes a day. It really does affect one's health and also one's sense of self, one's wellness, and physical health. So really one of the things that is essential about what we do is we're trying to provide supportive services to help older people remain independent and connected to community. So we have this dual mission of supportive services and intergenerational connection. And truthfully, everybody wants to be needed and to be valued. So there's really a reciprocal nature between the older adults and also the volunteers. And as you can see, people have different roles here. We're not so fixed that you have to be one or the other because everybody wants to be connected to others. And so I think it's really about building an intergenerational community and an age-friendly community.
Mm-hmm. Thank you for clarifying that. The fact that you mentioned social isolation, 1 day of social isolation equals to consuming like 17 cigarettes. That's quite a shocking statistics. That's quite a shocking data. It means that actually social isolation, we don't realize it when you're very young, but when you are an elderly person, it's like 17 cigarettes a day that can bring you closer to the end. And the fact that you are bridging that gap and bringing people of younger generation or different generation to connect with elderly people, to build connections, to build human interactions is wonderful work. Could you please?
Yeah, I think you can think about that loneliness is like it's food. We need connections. And you could just imagine if you didn't eat, right? And what that could do to you. So it's nourishing your health and well-being.
Mm, absolutely. It's a necessity. It's not a priority. It's a priority. It's not privilege, but it's a necessity that everyone needs, because you mentioned it's like having a food, having a water daily. So it's really impacts our health, and that's great that you are helping elderly people to have that their needs of human interactions being met. You mentioned mentioned that your organization focuses on generations helping generation, and that's your core program. Could you please describe that program and what's its impact on both parties involved, including elderly adults and volunteers such as Sophia and Victoria?
Sure. I think I'm going to let Sophie describe how she became involved with Dorot and how she connects with Victoria through their intergenerational connection.
So I got involved with Dorot through my high school. I'm now a high school senior, and I got involved my freshman year. Every year my school hosts a clubs fair, and one of the clubs at the fair was Dorot, and I saw the table, and it just seemed like something I could see myself being really engaged in. I really always have liked connecting with people, volunteer work, and so I signed myself up, and I just immediately felt a connection to it. I was paired with Victoria at the start of 9th grade, and it was just, we immediately just built such a strong connection that at the end of 9th grade, I asked her if it would be okay if we could visit her, me and my friends who would go with me, if it would be okay if we could visit her again the following year. And she said, of course. And so we visited her again throughout the next year. And then it just became that we visited her the next year and the next year. Now I've, like Victoria said, been visiting her for almost 4 years, which is very crazy to think about. And yeah, it just, also you were talking a lot about the impact on older adults, which I think is definitely true. But from my end, these visits, the reason I've continued it for so long is because I think it also has a really meaningful impact on me. And I've gained a lot from these visits. Aside from what I've been able to offer, Victoria's offered me a lot of insight and knowledge. And it's true that part of it, the volunteering is like aiding older adults and alleviating social isolation. But I think that I've also gained a lot of comfort from these visits, and it's helped me a lot.
You mentioned that the program was quite impactful for you, and it provided you comfort. Could you please describe on some of the skills it's helped you to gain? Maybe leadership skills, self-esteem skills, or communication skills. Could you please describe on that?
Yeah. Well, I think that it really helped me just broaden my perspective. As a teenager, I'm surrounded by mainly people the same age as myself. So to be in this environment where I was speaking to someone older than me on a regular basis was very refreshing. Especially in the time that we're living in now with the pandemic, where I'm surrounded by much of the same people. Meeting with Victoria just really gave me a new lens. It was something different than something my family or my friends had to offer me. She just, as an older adult, has been through so much that I haven't experienced, and she really shared some of that insight with me. And when you're young, everything can seem so big and enormous and scary, and she sort of shared the knowledge that she has as someone who's lived through much more than I've lived through, and really given me that. So I think definitely my understanding of things has broadened a lot, and definitely it's helped my communication skills. I can have hour-long conversations now with someone outside of my small social bubble, which is such a gift. And I guess also leadership skills. Like I'm now, I don't know if I mentioned this, but I'm the president of my school's Dorot Club now, because this had such an impact on me. And I get to speak at my school and encourage other students to get involved. So that's been really meaningful too.
Wonderful. I can see you smiling when you are talking about this experience, and how Victoria sharing her life experiences has helped you to become more mature and to become less afraid of jumping into the adulthood. So that's great to see that you have been involved in four years in this program, and how you were able to grow both personally and in terms of your leadership and communication skills. And now you can talk for 1 hour with someone who is outside of your bubble, a social bubble, on different topics. So that's incredible to have that kind of experience. How was this experience for you, Victoria, talking with Sophie, and how this impacted your life?
Well, because as you said, when one is young, every small activity seems like a world war. And how are you going to get through? And you're going to be judged by people who don't know you, and you don't know them. You don't know that they're judging you. It's very difficult to get a perspective in the broad sense. And I felt very privileged to be able to talk with Sophie and Marley and Cecile to put some of these things in a more basic way. There are many ways of dealing with something that you think is a terrible problem. You know, your haircut was terrible. Oh, everybody's looking at me. So very often an adult will say to a teenager, nobody's looking at you. So, and I would look at it as, well, you're not happy with your haircut right now. How could you change it for the 6 weeks or so that it's going to grow out? I was more of a practical than pragmatic, and they allowed me. See, part of it is as an outside person, they allowed me to talk to them about things that they brought up that they might not talk about at home to their mothers or their fathers. I'm going to miss all of them when they go to college.
Oh, you're getting emotional, and I can.
Yes, I am very emotional about this.
We're going to miss you also. We'll keep in touch. We'll call and
I know, but not to see you twice a month as I have for all this period of time, even with the pandemic when we did Zoom programming. So, you know, the four of us would get together on Zoom. You know, I watched these youngsters grow up. It reminded me of how frightened I was in those 4 years of my own life. And I had no one to talk with. So thank you, Sophie. And I will thank Marley and Cecile too.
Thank you.
This is a beautiful connection. This is the beautiful result of the program of Generations Helping Generations, and seeing that the 16-year-old, 17-year-old, and you, Victoria, are connecting, and you have built such a strong bond between each other. You mentioned that you were kind of a mentor for them. So you helped them to boost their confidence. You shared with them that the small things that matter, that worry them, in reality, they're just the small things, and they shouldn't be worried about those things. And you provided them a sense of self-esteem and confidence, and that's a beautiful thing to have. And I applaud both you, Sophie, as well as you, Victoria, for building such connection and sharing your life experiences with each other. That's a beautiful message. That's a beautiful connection.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So I just wanted you clarify. You mentioned that during this pandemic, you were able to connect through Zoom. Could you please, Judith, describe how were your programs were functioning during these trying times? I know that besides having just a talk with each other, connecting elderly and other generations, you also have wide variety of activities that you will provide. How were you able to perform them during these trying times?
Really, within weeks of the city shutting down, we pivoted all of our program to Zoom and also to telephone. Many of our clients only connect with a telephone. And then many clients maybe had computers, but weren't quite used to doing things like signing up for Zoom. So it took us maybe a couple months to really get many older adults on Zoom, but also to reach out to many older adults who needed extra support and social connections. So we do this in like a whole variety of ways, from matching people up for a weekly phone call. Sometimes we start with a 4-week commitment, and then we see that grows over time. We launched a caring calls program that is through the telephone with those short 4-week connections that usually grow over time. We've engaged almost 1,200 volunteers over the past year across the country, and also older adults, which is really wonderful that we're bringing more people into our social connections and building community together. We've also provided tech help, shopping, other vital supportive services through the telephone and by Zoom. And we've also shifted all of our on-site programming for older adults, for peer-to-peer programming, to Zoom. Mm-hmm. And we used to be able to offer maybe 2 or 3 types of programs a day in our building. Now we can offer 12 and have hundreds of people come to these programs. That also brought opportunities of having a farther reach and reaching like thousands of more older people. And I think also sometimes before COVID, it was hard to explain to people why intergenerational connections matter. And now everybody was feeling isolated and feeling the need to connect with others. And I'm hoping that this is not just a moment that's going to pass away. It sort of opens up a national and global awareness about the needs of connecting with others.
Mm. Wow. Actually, these trying times helped you to scale up your reach, and you were able to offer far more programs. And it was a great opportunity for both volunteers and older adults to interact with each other despite being isolated in their homes. And you mentioned the importance of having this intergenerational connection. And based on the example of Sophia and Victoria, we can understand why it is so important, why it is so beautiful, and how is it impactful for both parties involved. That's incredible work. If someone would like to support Dorot, how can they do that?
Thank you for asking. We need more volunteers. So if you're an older adult, if you're a young person, during the summer, we engage hundreds of these social connections, and not just through sharing a friendship, but through book discussions, through art, through current events, through poetry, through documentary filmmaking. And we do it all on Zoom this summer. So we really want to welcome more people to engage with us. Our website, Dorot, DOROTUSA.org, is the best way to connect and support us in any ways that people would like. And now, goes beyond the geographic boundaries.
Mm-hmm. The link to the DorotUSA.org will be provided in the link in the description. So if you would like to volunteer and connect with elderly people and discuss, as mentioned, books, discuss poems, and just have a beautiful conversation, you can do so by visiting the website of Dorot and familiarizing yourself more with the great work that they are doing. Thank you so much, guys. It was wonderful to get to know you all, and we wish you the best in your journey.
Thank you, Kareem. Thank you so much.
For you listening, if you enjoyed this conversation, please press like and share button, because this will show this conversation is important for YouTube and podcast algorithm, that we need more support in building intergenerational connections between elderly people and other generations. Thank you so much, and see you in the next episode.